You are listening to the Awakening Spaces podcast, a show about building homes that heal and the sacred journey within. I'm your host, Ashley Spanovich, a healthy home consultant, building science nerd, and the founder of Awakening Spaces. Around here, we're not just talking about walls, windows, and wiring. We're also exploring how the spaces we live in shape our nervous systems, our health, and our sense of self. Whether you're building from scratch, recovering from an environmental illness, or just starting to question what's really in your walls, we're here to help you reclaim your home as a place of deep nourishment. Let's dive in. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Awakening Spaces podcast. Today, I'm going to be doing an episode on a topic that I have been trying to record for a while now, and on something that I think gets pushed aside as less important than mold in the conversation of healthy homes. And that's a conversation on electromagnetic fields. I have so many clients who come to me who want to build or renovate a home, and their top priority is to reduce the exposure to mold. But I hope today I can share and provide some insight into these invisible fields that actually make a huge impact on our body's ability to heal from mold. I've really learned this in my own life. Like in the very beginning of my journey, mold was the thing that woke me up to my environment. It was it's like the heavy hitter, right? It's the thing when you realize mold is playing a role and you actually detox from mold and you see how much better you feel. It starts to make you think that mold is causing all of the world's issues. Truly. Often I share this story about when I first found out that mold was playing a role in my health. I had actually reached out to this functional practitioner. To take you guys back a little bit. So my journey started where I had these overwhelming symptoms for years. I was working in commercial interior design at the time. And I thought I was going to leave my job as an interior designer to become a health coach because I had spent years trying to figure out my own health. And I got really into holistic health, and I was helping my friends and my colleagues, and I was really getting into nutrition, and I started doing health coaching on the side while I was working in the architecture firm. And it wasn't until I went to Mexico and got incredibly sick, found out later that I had E. coli. And I thought, oh my gosh, I need to get this one probiotic that I know I need, because at the time I thought I knew exactly what I needed. And I got very lucky because that led me to a functional nutrition practitioner who ran a gamut of tests on me. And that was the entryway for me into the world of environmental toxins. I realized that I had mold toxicity. I realized I had been living with a lot of parasites, heavy metal toxicity, all the things. If you've been down this journey, you might be able to relate, because it's like once you open up the door, you realize that we have just been poisoned and that there's all these different things impacting us. And one of the things she said to me on that very first consultation was, oh, and by the way, as you're doing these detoxes, I want you to avoid your laptop. What? I was like, what the hell is this lady talking about? Like, this is where you've lost me. And this happens to me all the time. Fast forward 7 years, here I am. I'm an electromagnetic radiation specialist talking about EMFs and telling everyone to avoid their laptops and their cell phones and all the things. But I can totally relate to what it feels like when you get that news, or when someone says that to you and you're just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going to need some proof. Okay. So what I want to do in this series is I want to provide some proof. I want to tell you why turning down this artificial noise in your life is going to help you tune back into your life. It's going to help calm your nervous system. It's going to help you feel happier, more energetic, more in love, just more free, and just that feeling that I think we're all searching for. Doing and practicing and removing this noise from our lives is going to help us reach that much quicker. It's going to expedite your healing. I don't care where you are at in your journey. I don't care if you are somebody who's listening that is struggling through some sort of chronic illness, or whether you are just living your best damn life right now. I can tell you that by doing these things, you're going to feel better no matter where you're at in your journey. And when it comes to electromagnetic fields, there's 4 types that, as a building biology electromagnetic radiation specialist, as an EMRS, we go into people's homes and try to detect these 4 types of EMFs. One is radio frequency radiation, one is AC electric fields, one is AC magnetic fields, and then the 4th one that we look at is microsurge electrical pollution, also known as dirty electricity. So I'm going to break this down into a series of a couple of episodes because there's honestly so much we could talk about when it comes to all 4 of these. And they all have like different characteristics based on where they're situated on the electromagnetic spectrum. But today, I'm very excited to talk to you about radio frequency radiation. And this is RF, radio frequency radiation. This is silent, odorless, invisible, but it is absolutely everywhere. Everywhere. We are being bombarded with it. Absolutely bombarded. This is coming from your router, your wireless router, your smart fridge and your smart washing machine and your smart water heater and all of these smart appliances, your smart thermostat that you're connecting to your phone. Yeah, you heard me. Your phone. Our cell phones. Our cell phones are the number one exposure that we have to radio frequency radiation. Listen, trust me, I am right there with you. Even knowing all of the things that I know, I still have trouble putting the phone down. That's because it's addictive. And we're going to talk about that piece too, because that's a whole other component, right? But radio frequency radiation is all of that technology that essentially connects us wirelessly. Okay, so our Bluetooth headphones, our wireless mouse, our wireless keyboard, our laptops, our iPads, our Kindles, our IAQ, meaning indoor air quality tools. So we have all these different tools and monitors and things that we use nowadays to monitor the health of our homes. We even have automatic water shutoff devices that connect to our phones that emit radio frequency radiation. And these are the types of things that lead us to having conflicts when it comes to the health of our home. Anything that you can think of that is smart. Light bulbs. I'm trying to name as many as I possibly can because it can be really kind of confusing and you might wonder, oh, is this a radio frequency radiation? Because I know that when she told me to avoid my laptop, I immediately went down this rabbit hole. Like, what the hell? Like, why? Why do I have to avoid my laptop? What does she mean? This practitioner didn't know. She just knew enough that it was bad and that I should avoid it, but she didn't know enough. She couldn't give me why. And that's what led me going down the rabbit hole and inevitably becoming an electromagnetic radiation specialist. But the other things that are emitting are like wireless printer. I don't know if people use fax machines, but could be as well. So we have to be really discerning in the things that we bring into our homes and the things and the technology that we decide to engage with. And the reason for this is because our bodies are a circuit board. We are bioelectrical beings. Most people think that if a piece of technology or a device is not melting our skin off, that it's fine. But our government standards are based solely on thermal effects. So basically, if the device is not heating your tissue like a burrito in a microwave, then they say it's safe. However, I don't understand why there isn't more or better standards on this when there is so much research. And the only thing I can think about or think the cause for this is because radio frequency radiation is the tobacco of the modern age. We have a big telecommunication company, and not to mention we have a huge population of people who are now addicted to this convenience. But our bodies are fundamentally electric beings. Every single cell in our body communicates using super tiny electrical signals. And then when we blast ourselves with these high frequency pulsed digital signals from our cell phones and our smart meters and all these other devices, it's like we're trying to have a conversation right next to the speaker at a Metallica show. Think about trying to have a conversation with your friend right in front of the speaker at a heavy metal show. It's really hard to communicate, right? That is what is happening on such a subtle level in our bodies when we are getting constantly bombarded and pulsed with these invisible frequencies. It's making it really, really hard for our cells to communicate with each other. I want to talk about why our current system is flawed, because this stuff is everywhere. If it's everywhere, it must be safe, right? Well, the official safety limits used by the FCC and other regulators are based on a concept that is nearly 50 years old. Are you kidding me? Nearly 50 years old? We didn't even have the technology that we have now then when these regulations were being created. And again, the industry standard is based solely on thermal effects. So basically, they're assuming that if the radiation isn't strong enough to heat your tissues, it can't possibly hurt you. But again, there is mounting evidence that these frequencies cause biological harm, and it has nothing to do with heat. So where did this come from? Back in 1975, researchers conducted a study on food-deprived rats. They trained these hungry rats to press a bar for food. And then they blasted them with radiation until they stopped pressing the bar. They used rectal thermometers, which is interesting and sad to think about, actually. But they found that at a specific absorption rate, or SAR, of 4 watts per kilogram, that the rat's core body temperature rose, and that was why the rats stopped working for food. So that's it. That's the benchmark. If it doesn't cook a rat, it's safe for your toddler. But there have been scientists, specifically and notably scientists like Dr. Martin Pall, that have pointed out that there are thousands of papers that show biological effects like oxidative stress, DNA breaks, and heart rhythm irregularities. And this is at millions of times lower than these thermal limits. And this is one of the biggest things for me was I have autonomic dysnomia, or I don't have it. In fact, I don't like saying that I have something. Let's just talk about this for a second. I think oftentimes we can get really caught up in our diagnosis and thinking like, I have this. And it's almost like we're telling our body like, I am this. So I really do try to work on my language. I think one of the things that has expedited my own healing is really letting go of those labels and not saying like, or owning a diagnosis as something that I have or I am. However, I was told that the reason I got super, super dizzy every time I would stand up and black out, that I had autonomic dysnomia. And this is a extreme nervous system dysregulation, essentially. So one of the things that came with that for me was having these weird like irregularities or arrhythmias. It felt like just weird kind of heart palpitations. And making these changes in my own personal life has cut that out significantly. Let's get back to this though, because I want to understand, where did all this come from? What are the current regulations around this? How are we actually testing? So yeah, originally 1975, researchers conducted this study. So this is way before we had even a fraction of the technology that we have today. Now I want you to meet, or I want to introduce Sam. This is a 200-pound plastic dummy, and Sam is how they test your phone. They don't test your phone on a living, breathing human with actual cells and a nervous system and a brain. They use SAM, and SAM is named Sam because it stands for Specific Anthropomorphic Mannequin. And I probably butchered that. But SAM is essentially this large plastic shell or body that's designed to represent the top 10% of military recruits. So it's usually a 220-pound male, and they fill Sam with this phantom liquid made of sugar, water, and salt to simulate brain tissue. Because that's what we are, right? We're just sugar, water, and salt. And here's the kicker. The testing protocols don't even require the phone to touch the dummy's ear or body. Some of these tests are actually done with the phone actually 25 millimeters or more away, or about an inch away from the dummy. But when you put your phone in your pocket or you hold it against your head, or like some of the ladies I see out there going on runs sticking it in their bra, that is way closer than an inch. So when the French National Agency tested 450 cell phones as if they were actually contacting a body, 90% of them exceeded the SAR safety standards. And we're using a standard for a 200-pound man, while our children, who have very thin skulls and not fully formed skulls, can absorb way more radiation, way deeper into the brain structures. And they're using these devices every day. We are just handing our cell phones to our children while they're on full, not on airplane mode, no Wi-Fi off, no Bluetooth off, and they're just holding our phones. I mean, I see it all the time with friends who have children. We hand our phone to our kids. They're scrolling through. They're watching our phones. We're giving them pads. We're giving them tablets. But what we don't see is that there was no safety tests done on this. Now, radio frequency radiation plays a significant role in disrupting mitochondrial function through a complex biochemical cascade that begins at the cell membrane. And this interference is the primary reason why even non-thermal levels of radiation, meaning levels that are too weak to heat tissue, can cause profound biological harm. Now, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that I have all of the research that I'm putting this episode together on my website. I have a blog post called EMF Skeptics, because there are EMF skeptics, which I want there to be. There needs to be EMF skeptics. If I wasn't a skeptic, I would have never gone down this path. And I want you to be a skeptic in every single area of your life. This podcast is all about making you a skeptic. I want you to ask questions. I want you to do your own research. I don't want you to take any of this from me. And I want you to go to my website, check out the blog, and look up all of the collection of research and studies and articles and websites and stuff that I've found over the years, where you can look into all of these different studies and try to understand for yourself how this actually impacts your health. But one of the biggest, I'd say, findings that we've had is that, again, by Dr. Martin Pall, his work on finding out that exposure to radio frequency radiation opens up our voltage-gated calcium channels. So RF radiation acts as an external trigger that forces these channels open. It allows excess amount of calcium ions to flood our cells. Now, I actually put together an entire list that go into the science on all of this for you, but I'm not going to pretend that I am a biologist, okay? I want to talk about this in more of an analogy, okay? I want you to think of your mitochondria as these tiny little power plants inside of your cells that make energy, or the money that your body needs to play and go to work and to think and to grow and have energy and have fun, right? So this power plant is creating the currency for your body to go and do what it needs to do and do what it wants to do to enjoy life. Right? And the more of it you have, the more fun you can have. Now, radio frequency radiation from things like Wi-Fi, phones, smart homes, all those things, these act like these little hidden keys that force open these tiny doors on these cells called voltage-gated calcium channels. And once these doors are open, they're propped open really well. Okay, these keys prop the doors open. They don't allow the doors to close. And now you have all of this calcium flooding inside the door. So I want you to think of this like the kitchen sink is overflowing. Maybe you have the drain plugged and all of a sudden you didn't realize. And then all of a sudden your kitchen sink is starting to overflow and it's making a huge mess. This flood, it's creating free radicals, okay, which are like these tiny little wrecking balls that bounce around and damage your cell's DNA and all the energy machines. Because this is a mold awareness podcast, we can think of this like our sink is overflowing and oh my God, now we are damaging our entire kitchen. We'll probably have to rip up our LVP flooring because we know that when water gets underneath of the LVP, it's not going to be able to dry. So now it's just creating this huge mess. We're going to have to rip everything up. We're going to have to start over. We're going to have to rebuild. So instead of making energy, the cell has to go into emergency mode. Okay, think about it. Have you ever been there where you had a leak or flood or the washing machine is overflowing? You are in panic mode. Now your cells are going to spend all their energy making stress proteins, or you're just going to be a ball of stress, and you're just going to try to fix the damage. And this is why radiation is called the straw that broke the camel's back, because it forces your body to waste its energy fighting this invisible battle when it could be using that energy to go out, have fun, be joyful, be energetic, do the things you love. But because these power plants are so busy trying to clean up this mess caused by the radiation, you're probably going to feel tired, foggy, grumpy. So tuning out the noise of these frequencies is like giving your little tiny power plant a chance to stop fighting and to finally get back to its primary job, which is to energize your body and give it what it needs to be more energetic, to be happier, to be healthier, to love more, to give more, to be more abundant, to be more generous, to be there for your kids, to be there for your family. EMFs and failure to address EMFs in our home keeps our immune system in this state of constant stress, constant defense. It's going to make it harder to clear out mycotoxins and recover from the inflammation that mycotoxins produce in our body. So when somebody comes to me and their primary goal is to create a home that prevents the possibility for mold exposure, I always give everybody an option on what they want to do and how they want to handle electromagnetic radiations, because there's this thing, it's a real thing called budgets. But when it comes to health, I think EMFs are actually very, very foundational, because we are not going to be able to heal. We are not going to be able to thrive if our body is in a constant state of stress. We just aren't. So I would love for you to go and check out some of this information on my blog post for yourself. But I can't stress enough how much clearing out this mental noise, this invisible noise, and this artificial noise in your life will actually make a huge impact. So we have the issue of radio frequencies from our cell phones, but we also have the issue of our cell phone and the fact that every app, every email, every text message, every image, all these things are bombarding us, and it is constantly trying to take our attention. We are being begged for attention from 1,000 different directions. Have you ever just scrolled through your phone or doom scrolled and you literally just feel like garbage? You feel like you ate McDonald's and just felt gross and you just spent hours scrolling. I think there's a couple of things that are happening here. I think for one, we are getting bombarded by radio frequency radiation from our cell phones. So to put this in perspective for you guys, a safe level for a sleeping area for radio frequency radiation is below 10 microwatts per meter square. When I've done assessments here in Denver, at least, I haven't measured any homes that have been under 100 microwatts per meter squared. So I actually had to raise the safe level just because we cannot find it anymore. Our cell phones emit 450,000 to 500,000 microwatts per meter square. And we are holding that in our hand day in and day out. Now, I am not telling you this to scare you. I am not. I'm telling you this because when we have this kind of information, we can actually take action and do something about it. So that disgust that you feel after doom scrolling all that time, yeah, it could be because we just zapped our mitochondria beyond belief. And believe me, I've been there. And like I said earlier, I still have those moments where I do it. Even after knowing all this, I still do it. It's hard. It's addicting because we love our phones. We love our devices. However, there are safer ways to do it. And that is part of what I teach people who work with me. I have guides on this too. I'll link my guide on this to help you tune out on some of these things and figure out how to reduce your exposure to them. But, we have so much ability to make changes into our homes when we are renovating or building new. We have a world of opportunity available to us. And so that is why I'm so passionate about helping people through the new build and renovation process, because we can actually set ourselves up for success to make this really easy, where we don't have to have wires all over the place to achieve it. In my current house, I'm in a home, we didn't build it. We do have the internet hardwired in, but there's cords everywhere. If I was doing this right and doing it the way that I guide people through doing it all the time, we wouldn't have cords all over the place. It would look nice because I value aesthetic beauty as well. Getting back to that feeling, that doom scrolling. How can we live more safely with technology? How can we be better about it? How can we make empowered decisions? This isn't about fear tactics. This is about empowerment, because the more you know, the better you can do, the better you can be. And the more aware you are. I can tell you that when I first started learning about all this stuff, I truly thought I was going to burn the house down. As soon as I got into the program to study to become an electromagnetic radiation specialist, I started getting all the meters and started doing and assessing my own home. I truly thought I was going to have to burn my house down, or I'm going to have to move. And you don't have to go that far. First of all, it's really important to understand the data. When I didn't understand the data and I just started measuring things willy-nilly, I got myself into a bit of a nervous system struggle because I didn't have all the information and I freaked out when I started seeing numbers. But once I put everything into context, I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and it's going to be okay. And also, I had to remember that I am healing every second of every day, and my body is extremely powerful. There is something called the placebo effect as well, where our mind is very powerful. So it was very important for me to separate fear from risk and make empowered decisions. And if I was feeling fearful, it meant I don't make a decision. In fact, that's a motto that I uphold in my life now is if I'm feeling any strong emotion on anything, whether even if it's like a really exciting, happy, joyful emotion, I try not to act on emotion. And I think part of that too comes down to my human design. I've talked a little bit about human design here, but human design is actually, it goes off of your astrology birth chart. I think it like mixes astrology, the I Ching, and something else. I can't remember. But it does go off of that. And I am an emotional authority, which means that I have to be very careful about making decisions based off of emotion. But I think that also applies to everybody. I really do think that it's so important for all of us when we start to learn about these things that we just try to stay neutral and we just try to say, okay, how can we be better about this moving forward? How can we take this information and just take action on the things that we can control as opposed to worrying about the things we can't control? All of this stuff, it creates mental clutter. It's not just the radio frequency radiation, but it's also the screens. So part of this conversation has to do with light, and it's not just about the content we're consuming or the radio frequency radiation we're getting exposed to. It's the flicker. It's the blue light toxicity. Now, I'm going to do a whole other episode on this. And in fact, I have some really good guests coming up too. We're going to go really deep into light because light was so healing for me. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, the amount of money I spent to feel such dramatic change and improvement in my health after 28 days of consistent light practices is wild. I barely spent any money on that. So we're definitely going to talk about light because it's so important. But anyway, just to touch on that a little bit today, our modern LEDs and screens, they can have like a strobe effect, and this can exhaust our nervous system as well. And blue light can suppress our melatonin. And we don't just need melatonin for sleep. I think a lot of times we think melatonin is a sleep hormone, but it's actually a master antioxidant that protects our immune system. So it regulates mood, immune, sleep. Melatonin is beautiful and we want it. We need to be making it. And when we're overexposed to blue light flicker, this can create a cycle of insomnia, irritability, burnout. This is me. I lived this way for a really long time, and I was able to get through most of it through changing these things. And I think for me personally, that my really dramatic shifts in lifestyle when it came to electromagnetic fields was the catalyst to my healing. I think it was because it allowed my nervous system to actually get into a place where I was able to regulate a bit. I think that's still something that I work through personally, is like the nervous system aspect of all this. And I know a lot of you guys can relate to that because, our bodies cannot heal in a state of stress. So we need to protect that at all costs in this day and age. Now, studies have also linked RF exposure to anxiety, depression, irritability. So every single thing in your home that is connected to the Internet of Things, your mesh Wi-Fi system, it's constantly sending out a beacon or pulsing to try to maintain a signal for you. So we have smart meters that actually hook up to our utilities. So this can be for our electric, this can be for our gas, and for our water. These meters pulse 10,000 times a day, some of them. They're all kind of different, but you have to think of that as like an invisible electronic beep just hitting your nervous system every few seconds around the clock. Okay, research has linked this constant exposure to a massive increase in ADHD, depression, and concentration difficulties. In some areas, there's actually been an increase in, I think it was 70% increase in Ritalin use when these exposures are going on. It's just an extreme sensory overload. In terms of smart meters, one of the things that we could be doing is we could be opting out. So a smart meter allows your utility company to wirelessly transmit the usage of your devices and your appliances. So they're able to transmit that information wirelessly instead of having to come over to your meter and actually manually get that information. In Denver, at least, you can actually pay a fee. So we pay, I think, $12 extra a month so that we have an analog meter, meaning they actually have to come out and measure our usage manually. It's varied in some places. In some places, they make it very inconvenient for you to opt out of a smart meter. So you're just going to have to check your area and call your utility company and follow up on it, okay? Because I actually opted out of my smart meter and they didn't replace my meter with an analog meter for like 6 months. I called, they said, yeah, okay, that's great, we'll swap it out. Life went on and I just didn't even realize. 6 months later, I had a note on my door that said, we're coming to swap out your meter tomorrow or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you did this already. So that put that on my radar that we need to be following up with them and ask them, like, when do you plan to do that? You know, can you come any sooner? If you can't opt out for one reason or another, you can get a smart meter cover that you put on that will block some of that radio frequency radiation. Now, it is important to know that about 80% of the radiation is going away from the meter and about 20% is going to come back in. Some building materials will actually mitigate that or block the transmission just a little bit. So it really just depends. If you think this is you or you're wondering about your smart meter, the best thing to do is just to have an electromagnetic radiation specialist come in, do some assessments for you, see what your levels are in your home. Please do not be like me and start panicking and freak out. Let me tell you, the whole point of reducing our exposure to radio frequency radiation is to reduce our stress. So it's not helping if we're stressing about the radiation, because then it's just making everything worse. But easier said than done, and I get that. So try to relax and just know it's okay. Everything is figure outable. It's all going to be good. But just know that if you have a smart meter on your home, you should opt out of it, because why not? If the option is there, you should totally do it. If you're okay and you have the means to, pay that extra $11 to $12 a month. Again, it could be more where you're at, and it could make more sense to get a smart meter cover, which I have all of these things linked on my website. So I will link my shop in the show notes here for you as well. The main goal of this episode is to bring some more awareness of all this digital smog that we live in, right? If we can clear the smog, we can actually see the stars. We can enjoy our life. Like, we can be energized. We are giving ourselves a chance and much more capacity to do the things that we love, to handle the stress of normal daily life. So as I close this episode out, a couple of things I'll leave you with. Focus on your phone first, okay? Your cell phone is by far your biggest exposure. So turn your cell phone on airplane mode and make sure that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are turned off. So I'm actually going to see if I can show you this right here. So if you look at the phone, if you have an Android, it's really easy to turn the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi off, because there's something that Apple does that makes it a little bit trickier. You actually have to go into the settings and make sure that when you turn off the Wi-Fi, you actually turn it off in the settings. So if you can see my screen here, do you see how this is grayed out? So if you click on it, then the Wi-Fi is on. If you click on it, it doesn't actually turn the Wi-Fi off. If it's still kind of white like that, the Wi-Fi is still off. You can see that when I hit airplane mode, it actually put a diagonal cross through it, and it put a diagonal cross through the Bluetooth. That means Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are turned off. Sometimes when you just click airplane, it doesn't actually turn those off. And you have to actually go into your settings and turn those things off. So just know that you have to check that. On an Android, usually when you just click Bluetooth or Wi-Fi off, it just turns it off. So it makes it a lot easier. I don't know why Apple has to make it so complicated. But first and foremost, turn that off as often as possible. If you are not using your phone, turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth, put it on airplane mode. People laugh at me because my voicemail actually says like, hey, it's Ashley. Thanks for calling me. My phone is probably on airplane mode right now. So if you're getting this message, then you should send me a text. And then I have my computer hooked up where I actually can access my messages from my computer, which is great because my computer is hardwired in. So I'm always able to get the messages. It's just that I turn my really high radio frequency exposure off so that it's not blasting me. So I have it off most of the day. We will never sleep by a phone that does not have all of these features turned off. When we are sleeping, that is when our body is resting and repairing, and we need to give it the best fighting chance to do that. And if you've experienced any type of chronic symptoms, then you get it, right? We have to prioritize sleep, and part of that is getting all of the EMFs out of the room. Now, our cell phone is only one piece of that. There are 3 others that we didn't talk about today that we're going to talk about on future episodes. We're going to go deep onto all 4 of these. And in fact, I could go on about radio frequency radiation, multiple episodes. But to try to get you guys this in an hour, I'm sticking to sort of like the why behind this, right? The importance of it. Because I think first and foremost, we have to understand that in order to want to make change. First, your phone, then killing your Wi-Fi. Okay, so you can get a couple of things for your Wi-Fi. You can actually get a router that allows you to turn the router on and off with a button. Some routers have this. The second option would be to put your router on a timer that automatically turns off the router at a certain time every night. And then the third one would be to get a on-demand kill switch that plugs into the wall that has a little remote control. You can click it on and off like when you're going to bed. There's so many things that you can do if you're building or renovating a home. So if that is you, let's chat because the opportunities are endless to really lower this risk and exposure. So phone, Wi-Fi, hardwire your internet. Get somebody to come in. You can get like an IT guy to come in and help you hardwire your internet in. We have some resources on this too. Again, I'm going to share our resources for you in the notes, but you can get somebody to come in, help you hardwire your internet in, and then you can be connected all of the time. You can use your internet, use your computer. And the best part about hardwiring in is you will not drop your call. Do you know how many times I talk to people and they're like dropping off of Zoom? And I'm like, the connection is horrible. Why don't we all just hardwire in? We're all so afraid. We want everything to be wireless, but the connection really sucks when we're working on wireless. So hardwire in. You'll have such faster internet. In fact, our TVs, so smart TVs, guys, this is another one. And you actually have to go into the settings on the TV to make sure when you do hardwire a TV in, you have to also turn off the settings. Before I got into all this, my husband, Brandon, and I, every time we would turn Netflix on, like anytime we'd turn a streaming channel on, it would just be like the loading era of death. Oh my goodness. It was driving me nuts. And then when I learned about all this, I was like, oh my gosh, we should hardwire our TV in. So we actually hardwired our TV in. We never have an issue. Like the internet doesn't even need to be on when we're watching TV and we still have connection. We can still stream everything we want. And really the only issue at that point is the massive blue light exposure we're getting from our TV. But just put your blue light blocking glasses on, and that definitely will help if you have a show or something that you want to watch. And then the other thing I want to share too is like, if you feel like you're being bombarded by all of this, then like there's nothing better you can do to reset and recalibrate yourself than just going outside and touching your bare feet to the earth. We're going to do a whole episode on grounding and like all of the quantum biology goodness and healing that's available from nature and the free electrons that we can get when we go put our feet on the earth, because that's just like, again, when I mentioned earlier that I had such a striking positive reaction to practicing light therapy, part of that was this. I've never healed so quickly and so fast and felt better than when I originally did like a very consistent 28-day digital detox grounding light practice. I actually took my period that was completely irregular to being 28 days on the dot. So it does work. It is wild and it is mostly free. So we'll go into that more. But again, I hope that after this episode, you can just take a moment, start to turn down some of this noise, go outside. I know it's cold in some areas. You don't have to put your bare feet on the earth. You can actually just touch a tree. You don't have to actually be barefoot, but you can just connect with nature, like physically connect. And that will help discharge some of the fields that your body has absorbed. So I think this is the year, this 2026, this is the year that we turn down the noise and we tune into our lives. And I really, truly feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm craving it. Like I'm craving connection. I'm craving authenticity. I'm craving connection, but I'm craving disconnection. I've always been very strong in my boundaries of like my phone's on airplane mode, sorry, and like directing people to my email instead of doing calls wirelessly and just really staying strong and firm in that boundary because it is important to me. But this year I really want to be better. And I'm actually thinking about doing a little challenge with all of this because I think it would be fun to do this as a challenge and in connection with people. If that's something that you're interested in, please leave me a note, send us an email, let me know. Because if I get enough people who are interested, we can do like a day-by-day challenge where we just slowly disconnect and we do some nervous system practices alongside it to just sort of like, again, turn down the noise and tune back into our lives because it's so important and our lives are just moving so incredibly fast. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to dive into the next ones. I know this stuff can be overwhelming. So please, if you have any questions at all, send me an email. I'd love to know what landed for you, what's still confusing, and what you're, seeing in your own daily life. So, all right, everybody. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Awakening Spaces podcast. If you're ready to take what you've learned and start applying it to your own home, then there's a few ways that we can support you. On our website, you can find a collection of free and paid guides and courses that will walk you through everything from designing a healthy home to choosing safe materials and reducing mold, chemical, and EMF exposure. And if you're looking for more personalized guidance, then we also offer one-on-one consulting and design support, where we act as your owner's representative to help you plan, manage, and execute your new build or renovation project with confidence. You can explore all of these offerings on our website at awakeningspaces.com. And if this podcast has helped you in any way, we would be so incredibly grateful if you would like, subscribe, and share this podcast so that it can reach more people. Until next time, thank you so much for listening and being here and stepping into what it means to be an awakened homeowner.